Hi, I'm Matt, and today I'm going to guide you through everything you need to know to tackle your first Spartan race. Whether you're looking to push your limits or simply cross something off your bucket list, you're in the right place. I'm going to cover 5 topics: preparation, the differences between the races, equipment and clothing, tips and tricks, and the obstacles themselves. We'll start with preparation. Now, if you've not seen my channel before, you might be surprised to know that my main area as a profession is helping people improve their sleep. Most of my videos are about improving sleep, and it has to be said, sleep is a very important part of any preparation for any sporting event. You create human growth hormone during sleep, you create testosterone, you have all your recovery during sleep, and you gain energy from sleeping well. If you can sleep well for the weeks before, then you will have a better performance and a better time. If you're interested in learning more about sleep, easy thing, subscribe, like, follow me, and I've got a lot more on this topic. Next is cardio. Every Spartan race involves a level of cardio, be it if you're doing 5k Spartan sprints, or you're doing a beast at 22k plus, or if you're a bit crazy and you're doing an ultra Spartan. Ultimately, having some sort of cardio ability is important. Bare minimum, I'd always say, is make sure you can run the distance that's in the race that's coming ahead. So if you're going to do 5k, at least try and make sure you can run 5k prior to the race. Now, it has to be said that most people don't run the whole race, especially in mountainous Spartan races. You'll be maybe happy to hear that a lot of people will be walking parts of the course. Therefore, don't worry too much if you're not in top cardio form. However, it will help you. The better your cardio, the easier the obstacles will be, and the less painful the climbs and everything else will be for you. So you'll have more energy for the obstacles. In terms of preparation, key things are get runs in, get as many miles under your belt as you can prior to race, get used to building up your cardio resistance, start small, build big. In addition to this, I strongly recommend implementing hill sprints, running up difficult terrain. This will really help with these hard climbs in the more mountainous Spartan races. And ultimately, if you can run up a hill, then running on a flat is a lot easier. And it's just good physical as well as mental preparation prior to a race. Next is physical strength. There's a number of obstacles during a Spartan race, of which many will test your upper and lower body strength. Some are quite easy, honestly, such as going over 1 meter wall or going underneath barbed wire, while other ones can be quite challenging, like lifting an Atlas stone or having to take on a multi-rig. Either way, physical strength in your legs and your upper body will help you out. The beginner advice is always just try to do pull-ups. Pull-ups are always your friend. The more you do pull-ups, the easier a lot of these obstacles will become. It's the ability to lift yourself up is a key thing for Spartan races. If you can't do a pull-up yet, I always recommend start doing scat pull-ups, which you can find a bit more information in my video about gymnastic rings, and then build yourself up using bands to the point where you can then start doing full pull-ups. It's not the end of the world if you can't do them, but certainly the more you focus on this, the easier the race will be for you, and the obstacles in particular. Outside of this, general gym work will help, but I would strongly recommend focusing more on the calisthenics rather than, let's say, the bench press, the dumbbells. These aren't not useful, but you'll get a lot more bang for your buck if you're doing pull-ups, dips, chin-ups, muscle-ups, and any other form of sort of calisthenic upper body workout. When it comes to legs, as I mentioned, some activities will challenge your legs, such as the Atlas stones. This is where things like leg press, squats are going to be your friend, and also deadlifts. Deadlifts are a very useful exercise for your lower body strength and will really come in handy. If you're lucky, you might have a Spartan oriented gym near you that actually has some of the obstacles. It's not common, but ones that you can always look out for is rope climb. It's really great if you can learn to rope climb. This is a very common obstacle that you'll face. And also anything related to climbing can help. So climbing is always a skill that can come into place in some of the obstacles, as well as swimming. In terms of swimming, if you're not a good swimmer, don't panic. Most Spartan races either don't have swimming, or if they do have swimming, they'll normally come with life aids and also normally a rope you can hold onto if needed. Nonetheless, swimming's great preparation for cardio and strength, and it can help you speed up your time in these races. Last but not least is mental preparation. This is a very difficult area to expand into in a quick way, but the one quick advice I give on mental preparation is try to hold a positive mindset during the race. Spartan races are hard. I've done 13 to date, and none of them have been easy. They're always designed to challenge you, to kind of trick you into thinking you're doing well when you're not, and vice versa. You will at times feel bad if you failed an obstacle, or have doubts, or think, when is this going to end? It's rare that a Spartan race actually shows how far you've progressed. Therefore, it's important just to always keep a positive mindset. If you're struggling with this, I've got a little story to share. I did a Spartan race with my friend John, which I've got a YouTube video about, many years ago. And John has MS, which means that he is at a disadvantage to a lot of people to begin with. And then to make things worse, he had a stomach bug the day of our race. And we were doing a beast, a Spartan beast. During the whole race, he puked up something like 40 times. And despite a lot of suffering, he still finished the race. And he wasn't even last. We did it together, and didn't have a good time, but we finished it. Therefore, just always remember, like, there's people who are going to be in probably a much worse situation yourself. I've even seen someone do it with one leg. Therefore, if you have the mental strength just to be positive, keep going, you will be fine. Next is equipment and clothing. The basics should always be some running shoes, ideally shoes that got a very good grip. I'll put some examples on the screen now. I personally use a pair of Salomons, but any shoe that has good grip, that's good for cross-country, all-terrain, for running, will do you fine. If you only have normal trainers, you'll be okay, but just be careful if it's raining or wet. Working our way up the body, next I really recommend having long socks. The reason for this is the fact that there will be some obstacles which will have ropes, and ropes can burn your legs if you're not careful when you're climbing up them. Therefore, having some long socks really gives you a bit of extra protection to stop any rope burns. After this, a lot just depends ultimately on the weather. If it's very cold, you may want to consider wearing Under Armour and also wearing a light rain jacket. If it's very hot, you may just want to consider being topless or just wearing a t-shirt. Ultimately, this is down to you. As a general rule, I do not recommend wearing gloves unless it's very cold. A lot of people want to wear them, they think it's a good idea, but the issue with gloves is they can often slip on obstacles, they get wet, and they generally do not offer the same grip potential that your actual hands can offer. Therefore, as a general rule, I do not recommend them. If you're doing a beast or further, you may want to consider bringing hydration packs or a small backpack with small supplies. I would always try and keep it as light as possible, unless you're very confident in your abilities. But for the longer races, it makes sense because typically Spartan races don't have so many refuel stations, and it can be quite tiring, especially if you're doing an ultra or a beast. I recommend wearing contact lenses instead of glasses because during the race, there are lots of obstacles, going through barbed wire, going through rivers. It can easily damage your glasses, so I do not recommend sunglasses or glasses of any type during a Spartan race. In addition to this, do not bring your phone or any other personal items on the race itself. They will probably get broken or covered in mud. Every Spartan race is an equipment center where you can leave your belongings for free, and it's safe. Therefore, just always remember to leave everything that you do not need in the bag in security. The differences between the races. So the smallest is a sprint. The sprint is the shortest race, perfect for beginners. It's normally around 5k, can be a bit further however, keep this in mind, and has over 20 obstacles. Typically there'll be around 8 to 10 failable obstacles. These are basically obstacles where if you fail, you do a penalty. The penalty can range from doing burpees to doing an extra run to carrying a weighted bag of sand. In general, you can expect to finish a sprint in about 40 minutes to 1 hour 40, depending a lot in terms of your ability, but also the difficulty of the course. If it's flat, is it mountainous, and so forth. Next up is the super. The super is over 10 kilometers long, will be at least 25 obstacles. It will have at least 10 failable obstacles, which are the harder ones, shall we say. And it's certainly more challenging than the sprint. There's a lot more running in this one, therefore cardio is more important. Next up is the Beast. The Beast is essentially a half marathon with over 30 obstacles added on top. You do want to come into this with good level cardio and decent upper body strength, as it can be extremely hard. The first Spartan I ever did was a Beast, and I ashamedly have to say it took me over 8 hours because I was woefully unprepared. Therefore, if you are doing a Beast soon, then it's maybe good that you're watching this video. Next up is the Ultra. It's the ultimate test of endurance. This is a marathon distance with over 60 obstacles. I sincerely hope if you're watching this video and you're a beginner, you're not signed up to an Ultra, but if so, I wish you the best of luck. Next is tips and tricks. And I'm just going to run through a few things I've learned over the years. As I mentioned earlier, I've ran over 13 Spartans to date. I am not a pro. I am intermediate at best. Nonetheless, I have learned the hard way about many things. So let's roll with this. On the note of rolling, let's look at barbed wire. A cool little trick is that you roll it instead of crawling it. It's a lot faster and a lot easier. It takes a lot less energy. So just roll when you're going to barbed wire. Only word of caution is when you get to the wire, slow down and be very careful. It's a lot easier to prick yourself on barbed wire when you're rolling, so just be careful when you're directly underneath. Next is when you get to the obstacles. A rookie mistake is to get to the obstacle and just try it straight away without thinking. Some of the obstacles are challenging. You need to get your breath back. So I really recommend, it's normally worth taking at least 20-30 seconds to compose yourself, look at the obstacle, think how you're going to do it, and then do it. It's better to take some time and nail it rather than rush it, make a mistake, and have to do the penalty. When it comes to a lot of obstacles, honestly, if you've got decent body strength, they're all completable. Therefore, if you see someone ahead of you who's completing it and done it well, and they've hit the bell, then just see how they did it. Watch their technique. It's easy just to emulate what someone else has done to complete an obstacle. Another important advice is just a lot of it is in the head. If you think you're going to fail, you will fail. If you think you can do it, if you're positive, then you've got much higher chance. A lot of the issues of Spartan races is the mental fatigue. Therefore, always before these obstacles, say some positive thoughts, be grateful for something, and it will help your performance. When you're on hills and very mountainous terrain, remember that A, you don't have to run if you don't wish, and many people, even in competitive events, actually do power walking up hills, where you can basically put your hands onto your thighs and use them to help support your legs for the climb. One thing to avoid is always make sure you're touching the bell with your hand. If you kick it or use another part of your body, you could be punished or penalized. I've learnt this the hard way when I was trying to show off. Just use your hand. When it's wet, prior to the obstacle, I really recommend trying to dry your hands. Use some grass, use your clothes, whatever it is. If you've got wet hands, it can make it a lot harder to do the obstacles. Next is the fun part, the obstacles. I'm going to try and cover as many obstacles as I can. I've got a lot of footage from Spartan races, so I can show you quite a number of them. But do keep in mind, every race is different. It can be different in different countries. The odds of me being able to cover every single obstacle are very slim. But I'll try and cover as many as I can and give you my advice while we look at them. You might have heard me talk about penalties. So what does this mean? Well, during each Spartan race, you will have a number of obstacles that are failable. What this means is if you fail it, then you have to do a penalty. Examples of this would be the monkey bars, or the rope climb, or the balancing beam. If you fail these obstacles, which is more than doable, trust me, then you have to do a penalty instead. Traditionally, the penalty used to be 30 burpees, which is pretty tough. A race with 10 obstacles, which you fail all, will be 300 burpees. However, Spartan races have got a bit easier in recent years, therefore often it's not just burpees, it can be an extra run or carrying a sandbag, which, trust me, is nowhere near as bad as the burpees. Nonetheless, you have to keep this in mind. If you're in a position where you might fail of obstacles, it could mean a lot of extra work in terms of burpees in the race. Therefore, It's part of preparation. It's not a bad idea to make sure you can do your burpees and you've got good cardio and all-round body strength to pull them off. So we start with the walls. Honestly, they're not so difficult. This is one of the easier things. You just have to jump prior to getting to the wall, get your arms over, and then once your arms are over, you just got to lift yourself up. Many races will have a bucket carry, where you have to basically carry a bucket full of gravel. Sorry to say, but it's simple. You just have to pick it up and get on with it. There's not really much technique to this one to share. Balance walk. I have to admit, I fail this nearly every time. It can be extremely difficult, especially when it's wet. The best advice is preparation. If you're doing slacklining, if you're doing balancing in your preparation, you will do much better on this on the day. The second advice is to mentally focus. Try and look ahead and try and be aggressive with the start of the beam. If you can do the first meter, trust me, the rest is easy. It's just the start that's hard. So be aggressive with it. Don't let your mind fail. Keep your eye ahead of you and you'll be fine. Monkey bars, generally one of the easier obstacles. The main difficulty of these is the first bar. It can be quite daunting. It looks quite far, you're worried what's going to happen, but ultimately once you get onto that, you realize it's not so difficult. So only technique here is just put one arm to the next bar, bring the other arm, and then move forward with another arm. So basically tap, 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 tap is the way to go. And make sure you use your hands, not your feet, to hit the bell at the end. Atlas carry can be a bit daunting, but ultimately it's normally okay. You just have to get down nice and low, get a really nice grip, get your hands nicely around the ball, and then you're basically doing a squat / deadlift to get up. Just make sure you're lifting with your legs, not your back, and you can use the ball to roll against your own body to make it a little bit easier. The grip, it doesn't have to be perfect, you don't have to have it over your head or anything like this, you just have to literally lift it to your groin area, and then the Atlas carry normally isn't very far, so you can get to the ends and come back quite easily. Sled pull can be quite challenging, so this is where really having good upper body back strength and leg strength is important. Just make sure you're using your weight to help pull the sled towards you, and then moving it back is not so difficult. For the spear throw, I have to admit I've failed this more times than I can count, therefore I might not be the best source of information on this, so probably better videos on YouTube. So not very good to say watch another video, but I'd rather be honest and give you misinformation. Climbing wall, typically working on your grip strength before helps. What I'd say with climbing wall is just be calm. Take it slowly. If you're calm, collective, you'll be okay. When you get to the edges, it can be scary because you cannot see where the next hold is. So when you get to the edge, make sure you're in a very comfortable state and then just start moving your hand around the corner and try and feel for where there is a next block to hold on to. Hercules hoist is a very common one. Again, this is one where having good upper body strength and back strength will help you a lot. One thing to remember here is you can use your legs and leverage them against the scaffolding to really help you pull it down. Use as much of your weight to help you here, so lean back. You can be nearly flat on the ground doing this in most races. It's not, as far as I'm aware, frowned upon. And just remember, when you do get it to the top, to slowly release. If you drop it, then it counts as a fail. So take your time when you get to the top. Rings, there are two ways to do rings. One is that you go one arm like a monkey. So you go one arm and extend to next, then hold to one arm and extend to next, and you use your momentum in a very sort of cool and comfortable fashion to glide yourself there. If you're not so elegant and you're more like me, what you can also do with rings is just do one arm, bring both arms to the same ring, and then put your one arm to next ring, bring both arms together, and just kind of look at like you're basically doing lots of mini pull-ups, one after another. So if you're good at pull-ups, you can always use this technique to save you. Rope climb, the key to rope climb is ultimately make sure your feet are in the right position. So you want to wrap your legs around, and essentially you'll know you've done it right when there's tension and you feel that you're not moving down. And then simply after this, you pull yourself up, you wrap your legs around the rope at the bottom, so your feet are crossed around the rope, and then continue one after another. And the other bit of advice I'd give is never look up during a rope climb. Always just look straight forward, don't think, just keep on going, and literally you'll be in the top in no time. You hit the bell. If you start panicking or start looking up, you'll see the bells there, you'll try and hit it too early, you'll miss it, and you can be in a lot of trouble. So look forward, keep going up, and don't stop until you're literally right at the top, and you can just tap the bell with no effort. For coming down, just nice and slow, you do not want to get rope burns. This is a multi-rig. Now, this is one of the harder obstacles. It can have different variations. My main advice for multi-rig is you just have to keep a good mental strength. It's not as hard as it looks. The first part looks impossible, but trust me, you just gotta shuffle yourself across, use the strength in your arms. It's slightly difficult, but not as bad as you think. Once you're on the rings, you should always have the technique from doing rings before, but your options are always either do one at a time, one arm at a time, or you can use two arms, but just make sure you're with momentum. Momentum has to be going your way. If you're not careful and you get stuck in a ring, you can end up spinning around and it becomes very hard to continue. So just always be mindful that you're kind of moving forward in a nice, gentle momentum way where you're moving with your momentum, and this will always help you with the rings. The bender is a very common obstacle. Here you just want to jump up and try and grab onto the second bar if you can, and then use your body strength to get yourself up to the third, and then use your legs and lift them up onto the first bar. Once your legs are up, it's a very simple climb. It's a little bit scary at the top, but you just gotta keep going with it, wrap your legs around, and then on the way down, it's much easier. This is the beater, and this is basically like monkey bars, but they can rotate. Now, the main advice of this one is just try and make sure you're aware of people around you, because they can change the way the bars are if they're ahead of you. So try and make sure that you've got space between you and the other people, so then you can attack this without worrying about where the bar's going to move if they overtake you. Key thing, often with a lot of these obstacles, it's in the mind. It's just monkey bars, but just more advanced. So you just have to kind of trust your body, and once you get there, to trust that you can keep moving forward. There's benefits to moving with momentum. And remember, you can always hold on to the rotating bar and do kipping or swings to help you get a little bit of momentum so you can push your way forward. So just don't panic if you get stuck on it. You can use your momentum to push yourself forward. Tyrolean traverse, tricky one, but the key thing here is I recommend having long socks so you can wrap your legs around it, and it is a case of cardio and good upper body strength. If you have it, you'll be okay. Slip wall, simple, just run up, grab the rope, and then you can kind of just pull yourself up with your hands to get up to the wall. If you are towards the end of the race and you're very tired, just be very careful when you climb over the top, because it can release lactic acid in your legs. So this is the only quick bit of tip I'd give, but this is not so difficult. You just have to make sure you trust your feet and walk up holding the rope. So thank you for everyone who's watched this so far. I really sincerely hope it helps someone out there who's maybe doing their first race or they're looking to improve their Spartan races. Again, I'm not the biggest pro of all time, but I have got the experience from the school of hard knocks on this one. I'll leave you with this last thought, which is if you do finish a Spartan race, even if you don't, just remember you beat every single person who didn't turn up, who didn't sign up for it. Even if you're last place, you're still ahead of where you would have been if you didn't do it. Spartan races are hard, but they're a fantastic way to push your strengths, see what you're capable of, and get fit. I cannot recommend them enough, and I really would love to hear of stories of people who've done races, and also share your tips in the comments. Share any ideas that helped you, and it might help me in my next race, which will be number 14. Wish me luck.